I love Thanksgiving. And this Canadian Thanksgiving, I'll be nourishing myself with sweet, sweet Blue Jays tears. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yeah, that hit even better than last night's show. It is Saturday, October 8th, 2022. One of the greatest days in Mariners history. This is Ty Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you so much for making us. Indeed. Thank you so much for making us your first listen. Subscribe, like, and turn on alerts if you're watching on YouTube, or subscribe and leave a 5-star review on your preferred podcast platform if you like what you hear. And if you want to hear from us even more, please consider signing up for our Patreon. The link, as well as our social accounts, is in the description below. That's right. USA. Yes.
But really, go Mariners.
But yes, Goms, however you want to pronounce it, whatever. I'm not here to judge. GOMs, sure, we'll go with that as well. I'm not one to judge. So the Mariners played a little baseball game tonight. At one point, they were down 8-1, and it was like, okay, yeah, this is we're probably going to play on Sunday. All right, whatever. Blue Jays are a good team. But the Mariners end up completing one of the greatest comebacks in playoff history in Major League Baseball. The Mariners introduced the entire world to chaos ball tonight as they defeat the Blue Jays 10-9 and leave that rockin' Rogers Center, which, by the way, I was very surprised the energy that ended up coming out of that building after the way that the stands were looking about 20 minutes before first pitch. It was empty. It was like really, really empty 20 minutes before first pitch. Tickets were going for $16 at one point. Like, we were checking, which really made me upset because I paid $118 for my ticket. And it was the same exact seats that not the same exact seats, but the same exact section that I was sitting in for $16. So that hurt quite a bit. But yeah, they were trying to sell these tickets, and I think a lot of people did take advantage of that because the stadium did start to fill. There were still quite a few empty seats throughout the game, but the energy was just way different than it was on Friday. So got to give it to them on that front. They really, the fans came out, they showed out. That was the playoff atmosphere that I was expecting from Rogers Center. So that was really cool, aside from, the fact that the Mariners were down 8-1 and Robbie, oh my God, I was in my own personal hell at that point. And then everything just, maybe I died and went to heaven or something. I don't know, but the Mariners somehow won that game. Colby, help me fill in the blanks here from the TV broadcast, because again, I'm beside myself right now. Like, I saw what happened, but I didn't actually see what happened. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah. So help me out here a little bit.
With Robbie in particular,
or we'll talk about Robbie later, because Robbie's like the bad thing that we'll have to talk about at one. Yeah, but let's talk about the good.
We'll sandwich him in the middle section here.
Yeah, let's talk about the good. So just tell me about your experience overall watching this game. Let's start with that.
Yeah, incredibly frustrating. Robbie went out there and he looked really good in the first inning. You're like, wow, okay.
Yeah, he really did. Yeah,
almost struck out the side. The slider was sharp. Fastball velo was 96. It was like, yeah, this is good, Robbie. And then, unfortunately, the slider flattened out incredibly, and the fastball was still okay. He located it all right. It was just the slider was just batting practice. It was just spinning. It wasn't moving at all. So, the Blue Jays took advantage of it. And then Sewell came in, and I can't remember exactly what had happened. It was 4-0, I think, when Sewell came in. And I think he hit the wild pitch. It was the wild pitch that brought in a run. And I was like, okay, I'm stepping away from this Mariners game for my own mental health. And so I dipped. I went and I watched YouTube for however long it took before Cal Raleigh came to the plate and he blooped the single in the next inning to load the bases. That's when I checked back in. So, it was like a 10-minute break or whatever. And, by then it's like, okay, it's still 8-whatever. And it's probably not going to win this one, but I'll watch now. Just had to kind of step away, reset the mindset, and just kind of, all right, where they're going to play tomorrow. I'll just watch the rest of this. Hopefully they can get to the bullpen a little bit and maybe knock some guys out for tomorrow and all that stuff. And then, it just kind of slowly builds. They load the bases and you're like, yeah, well, we've seen this story before. And then I think perhaps the momentum shifter of the game was an incredibly stupid decision by Blue Jays manager John Schneider to go to, like, I get taking out Gossman, with 90 pitches, bases loaded. That's fine. I understand that. You go get a lefty to face Carlos Santana.
Yeah, you want to put him on the right side.
Yeah, you want to switch him to his best side. Like, it's not his power side per se, but it is his best side, and it's not close. And Dylan Moore is going to come up and hit for probably Kelnick too. So it's like, why not go to a righty and keep Santana on that side, or at least let Gossman face him, and then you can just go to what's Maeza? Is that Miza? I've never learned how to pronounce his name. So
yeah, I think it's Miza.
Yeah, so why go to him and flip Santana to his strong side? It doesn't make sense. And then wild pitch. I think on the first pitch of the at-bat, wild pitch, and the third pitch or so, home run, and you can kind of feel the air kind of get sucked out of the stadium. You're feeling pretty good. You're like, okay, they can keep it at 8. They'll have a shot. I mean, Romano, right? That's how they pronounced it, was Raymano. He's coming in at some point, but you're like, if you can maybe get his pitch count up, maybe he'll be less effective tomorrow. And that's kind of what you're thinking along the way. And then, the Blue Jays score a run. And I think the Blue Jays scoring that run, that insurance run, might have been the difference in the game, because then Schneider makes the second big mistake and he has Romano ready to go. But because he's now up 4, he goes and he gets Bass, who let's just say had a rough day on the mound and on social media as he deactivated his Twitter account. You're going to talk that trash, you better back it up, Anthony. But he did not.
Mariners legend, Anthony Bass, by the way.
Yep, he did not. And then, they bring in Romano, and it's JP's blooper. I think when that landed in, I think there was just a sense that, like,
it destroyed the momentum in the stadium. I got to tell you, because when that happened, because Springer gets hurt on that same play, that building went quiet. Like, you could hear a pin drop in that building, and the rest of the way from that point forward, it went quiet. They cheered for Springer as he came off the field, etc. But outside of that, the building was quiet for the rest of the night, for the most part. They got, when the little TV told them to cheer and whatnot, they all cheered and whatever. But that was about it. Like, the energy was gone. It was completely sucked out of that building when that happened. And at that point, I was like, yeah, they're going to win this game. Mariners are going to win this game, because it's just, there was no coming back from that. You blew the lead. You blew a 7-run lead. And once they got through the top of the order in the bottom of the 8th, and you knew that it was going to be Teoscar, who obviously had a great game today, but it's still Teoscar Hernandez at the end of the day. Matt Chapman, Danny Jansen, Raimel Tapia. Like, when you knew, like, when you saw that, and obviously you knew it was going to either be Eric Swanson or George Kirby. It wasn't going to be Andres Munoz or what have you. But still, at that point, you got to feel really confident in your chances. It just felt like they were going to win that game.
Right. And, I think it was just a matter of me was like, is Munoz going to make a mistake? Is he going to leave something in the middle that can change the outcome of this game? And it turns out Munoz's control wasn't good enough to leave something in the middle today. He was bad. Like, there's no way around it. He was bad. He threw a lot of pitches the day before. Just didn't look comfortable at all. Slider kept backing up. Worked around it. And I think once you got Kirk to ground out, I was thinking, like, okay, this game, the Mariners are either going to win this game in the 9th or it's going to extras. I feel pretty confident about that. So, thankfully, Cal Raleigh, huge double as he continues his hot hitting. And then, as we've started calling him, Slapped in America.
Slapped him, my slapped
him. That's right. He lines a double for the, on the 27th anniversary of the other double we all know about. Yeah. So Adam Frazier, Edgar Martinez, not really the same caliber of player, but forever linked in Mariners history now.
Yep.
Because that was the capper. And honestly, even when Kirby was out there, he walked Chapman, and I was like, that's not the guy you want to walk. But even then, I was still like, they'll probably turn a double play here because that's the way this game has gone. Momentum completely shifted, I think, when Schneider took out Gossman and put in Maeza, however you pronounce it. It just didn't make any sense. Why are you putting that guy on a strong side? It just doesn't make sense. Broadcast wise, I thought it was a pretty good broadcast again, with the one exception that they basically were trying to make it like Diego Castillo intentionally hit Whit Merrifield. Like, they basically called him like a scumbag on TV.
Dude.
And it was like, it was a
slider. It was a slider. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess Merrifield was really upset about it. He was like swearing at the Mariners dugout after they took him out or something like that.
I saw it. Yeah, I saw him. Yeah.
It's like, grow up, dude.
He stared Diego down. By the way, real quick, not to get it all super political or anything here, but during his at bat, there was a Moderna ad all around the stadium. So I'll just leave it at that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was stupid. Like, they're like, oh, if you can't pitch inside, like, you don't go up by a guy's head. And it's like, it was a slider that slipped out of his hand. Like, shut up. I don't know, like, what you're complaining about. But other than that, broadcast was really good. Kirkshin is such a nerd that I love it. He's saying these things. It's like, I'm so nervous. I'm not even rooting for a team, guys. I'm so nervous. And it's like, okay, Tim, okay. So yeah, on TV it looked pretty good. But yeah, I think for me, I did the reset thing, and then once Santana came up, and they switched him to his right side, I was like, that's one of those things that people look back at, weeks later, and they're like, that was a turning point. It just felt like, I didn't think he was going to get a home run or anything, but I thought, double, just keep putting pressure on Toronto, and he ended up clearing the fence, and the Mariners don't make that comeback without Santana, who, by the way, also just missed a home run to straightaway center field earlier from the left side. So, I'm sure we'll talk about this in a minute here after our little break, but the bottom of the Mariners order really carried the day, because the top of it, 1 through 5, not that good. 6 through 9, incredible. And that's the reason the Mariners were able to make a comeback, because it wasn't the bullpen. They didn't keep the score where it was. They were not good today. It wasn't Julio and Gino and Mitch and Ty just dropping bombs. That's not what happened today. The Mariners made this incredible comeback because Adam Frazier, Carlos Santana, and JP Crawford just carried the team, which weirder things have happened, but
chaos ball.
That's just plain and simple. That's chaos ball to the max right there.
Dude. Yeah. I mean, this was everything that the Mariners are. This embodied just what the Mariners are about, how they play baseball games. And yeah, the fact that this was on national TV, I mean, it gives me giggles. And I have a special hatred for the Toronto Blue Jays in my heart, so I am soaking this one up more so than usual. So I'm having a great time right now. All right, let's talk about Bet Online real quick before we get into the rest of our show. BetOnline is your number one source for football betting info this season. Find all of the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis on every game you can find. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sport wagering information, with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. It is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to betonline.net or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline is where the game starts. You're listening to the Locked On Mariners post-game show. Thank you so much for making us your first listen after the Mariners just made history. This was one of the greatest games in Mariners history. And, I mean, I'm
been a few of those the last few days.
There's been a few of those. There's certainly been a few of those. I think this one kind of reigns supreme, and of course I'm a little biased because I was there. This to me was better than the Drought Ender. I know I'm probably going to upset a lot of people, but
you weren't there.
It is the playoffs, though. I'm just saying, it is the playoffs.
It's basically a playoff game, It was World
One was
Series-esque when Cal hit the
one,
bomb, but yeah, sure. Your
one was
wild card
against
round win, I guess, is fine. Like
one was against the A's, one was against an actual playoff.
one was a 3-2 count with the bases empty in the ninth inning of a tie game
Now, to
to
be fair,
break the 21-year drought. Like,
one made me cry, and the other one just made me like sweat profusely. Tonight
Sure.
was the latter, of course.
Right.
The other one, I bawled my eyes out. So whatever. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about the bottom of the
If
order.
today's game was an elimination game, I bet it would have produced the same result, though.
Yeah,
Like the fact that you knew you had Sunday in your back pocket if you needed it probably helped.
Yeah, it did. It did. Yeah, no, I think if this happened on Sunday, I'd probably still be in the stadium in my seat, just bawling. Yeah, anyway. All right, enough about me and my emotions watching baseball. Let's let's talk about the bottom of this order. JP Crawford, Adam Frazier, Carlos Santana. We were watching BP, and by the way, got to give a shout out to Keith, who I watched the game with, at Keith's Tees on Twitter. Give him a follow. He was awesome tonight. We had a great time. We were watching BP. Mitch was destroying baseballs, which didn't translate. Gino was destroying baseballs, which didn't really translate. However, Carlos Santana was the other guy that was destroying baseballs in BP. And it was like one of these three guys, at least, is going yard tonight. Carlos Santana continues to haunt the Toronto Blue Jays as a Seattle Mariner. I mean, look, we've said, everything that we can about Carlos Santana, and he hasn't been great this year. Like, we'll still say that. I will still maintain that. But my God, has this guy been one of the clutchest Mariners this year, and he's helped them win some big games, and he was one of the sole reasons this team won this game tonight. Carlos Santana is a legend, dude. Like, this bottom of the order tonight was so impressive. Outside of the Kelnick Moore spot, like outside of that though, the bottom of the Mariners lineup tonight was the best that it could possibly be.
Even the Kelnick Moore spot at least produced a sack fly and a walk, so at least it got something out.
Are
of that
you sure
spot.
you're not the drunk one tonight?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But
by the way, I never saw that first drink of yours after the clinch.
I decided to wait and see if they win the World Series, go all out. But
moving the goalposts.
I'm still gonna do it. No, don't worry. I'm just waiting to see if they win the World Series. So don't worry. It'll happen.
It better happen on the show. It better happen on this show.
I don't
or
think
CTZ.
we're allowed to do that on the show.
All right, so then CTZ, CTZ live.
I mean, I guess we don't record live. Okay.
Yeah, CTZ live.
All right.
Yeah, that's in the afternoon. All right, we'll figure it out.
we'll figure it out. Don't worry. It will happen. It will be documented somehow. But also I want to give a shout out, talked about how kind of bad the top of the order was. Four of the top five were pretty bad today. Cal Raleigh continues to rake out of the cleanup spot yet again. 3 more hits. I think he had 2 doubles and a big single. So yeah, Cal Raleigh in the cleanup spot right now is working very, very well. And I think the lineup just looks better the way he's in there because it's, traditionally it's been 4 righties in a row. Throw Cal in the mix there. It's a switch hitter, big time power. You move Haniger down a little bit. So the Mariners have, tweaked their lineup a little bit here. They moved Frazier up today to hit 6 because he had handled Gossman so well. And Frazier ended up with 3 hits. Should have had 4. Bichette made a great play on a line drive. So it's working right now. Scott is pulling the strings of the lineup at least pretty well right now. Some weird bullpen decisions, but yes, today's game it was the cleanup guy, and then it was really the cleanup guy setting the table for the bottom of the order, which is not how it's supposed to work, but that's how it ended up working today. The Mariners, they scored 10 runs, so offense couldn't have been that bad. But I believe 8 RBIs came from 6, 7, 8, 9 today, 8 of the 10. So
in the build up to the series, we talked about how daunting this Blue Jays offense is, and we finally saw it, after you somehow shut them out yesterday. And I mean, somehow, like, Luis Castillo exists, like he's incredible and he was so dominant yesterday. But this is still an incredibly talented offense, and they finally popped off tonight, and you outslugged them. The Seattle Mariners outslugged the Toronto Blue Jays tonight. They won a shootout with the Toronto Blue Jays tonight. And, like, look, the Blue Jays bullpen is bad, as evidenced by tonight. And we had heard about that. But nevertheless, I mean, this is also the Mariners, right? Like, we've seen this offense. We've seen how streaky it can get. We've seen how quiet it can get a lot of the times. This is one of the most unexpected, improbable wins that the Mariners could possibly have, just all things considered. And given the energy in that building, for a young team with not a lot of guys who have been in this position before, George Kirby, who's a rookie, closing this game, a one-run game, and I don't care if it was against the bottom of the order, top of the order, it doesn't matter. In that environment, in a one-run game, with the chance to clinch the Mariners' first postseason series victory in 21 years, and it just didn't matter. It didn't matter. He got it done. He got the job done. These guys got the job done. They don't care about the moment. It's almost mind-blowing, like how much or how little they care about the stakes of all of this. And what I mean by that is, like, you know, they're just not affected by like, obviously they care, right? They know what's at stake ultimately, but like they're not affected by the height of the moment. And it's shocking. Like, I legitimately thought that there were going to be issues for this team, that there was going to be an error or something that was going to snowball into a bunch of other stuff. That didn't really even happen. Like, even today, it was mostly just bad pitching. That was the issue for the Mariners.
Yeah, we kept on waiting for the younger guys to make a mistake, for Julio to miss a cutoff man, or for JP to make an errant throw or something like that, and it just never happened. The guys who actually seemed to struggle the most with the pressure was Paul Sewald and Robbie Ray, and I don't know if that's a pressure thing or if that's just they didn't have it today type of thing. That does happen.
Well, Colby, pressure is only for tires.
Yeah, I figured that was coming.
Yeah.
But
I had to. I'm sorry.
Yes, but no, I mean, the young guys all played, really well, and the veterans did pitch in. It's not, I mean, obviously Adam Frazier had a huge day, Carlos Santana had a huge day, Gino had a huge day yesterday. So, but today, it was Cal and it was JP, and it was Festa and Brash, and it wasn't the older guys today; it was the young guys. So, this team proved that they can win with their veterans. It proved that they can win with their young talent. And it proved that it can win a slugfest. It proved that they can absolutely dominate you and shut you down with their pitching. So we'll see how this goes going into Houston. But the whole idea that the Mariners might not be ready for the playoffs because they don't have much experience, I think that's been busted. That's a myth that's been busted, because they look totally comfortable, and they didn't look like they were ever the team that was pressing this weekend. It was actually the home team that was really kind of struggling to live up to the moment.
So it wasn't the greatest game for Scott Service. I don't want to spend this whole show like focusing on the negatives, because again, we just watched one of the greatest games in Mariners history, so I'm not going to spend too much time on that. But we do need to talk about Robbie Ray. It was pretty much everything we feared. And so, the Robbie chance and all that stuff, and you talked about the slider. Just the slider was gone after the first inning. He couldn't use it effectively. It was just a non-competitive pitch. I was surprised that he didn't use the sinker more, though he did give up one of the home runs on the sinker, I think, to Teoscar. But I was really surprised that we didn't see more of that, because he was actually getting whiffs on that pitch in the first inning. At least, I'm going off of what the board was telling us. I don't know if it was actually registering as a two-seamer, or it was a slider that was registering as a two-seamer or some reason, whatever. It's an old ballpark that I wouldn't put it past them to miss registered pitches. By the way, I have a souvenir here from the ballpark. These are one of the towels they're giving out. And yes, indeed, next level. That is truly a next level way to lose a playoff game. My word. Okay, so is Robbie a problem? Like, can Robbie make his next start against the Astros?
It's a fair question. thankfully, the way the schedule is set up, and it's not set up well, especially for the Astros, because you're not playing tomorrow. You will not play until Tuesday. So good news, the entire bullpen gets 2 reset days. That's great. It also means that you get Logan Gilbert for game 1 against Verlander, and again because of the off days, you also get Luis Castillo for game 2 on an extra day's rest actually. So that's great. And then after that, it would kind of see you get another day off. So, I think what you might end up seeing here because of the way the schedule is laid out, I think you can have Logan Gilbert start 2 of these games. And I think you might actually be able to squeeze 2 starts out of Castillo just because there's so many off days in the first, few days. So I think there's a chance Castillo could start game 5. So you might only need 1 rotation spot that's not Gilbert or Castillo. And if that's the case, then I think what you might see is you might see Kirby and Ray kind of piggyback each other. It's something that they haven't really tried, but it's the playoffs. Anything can happen. And I still think you feel better about Ray against the Astros than you do Marco or Flexen, right? I mean, I think so. And maybe the answer is Marco's the opener, and they piggyback Kirby or something. So, yeah, it's not great right now. You kind of only have 2 pitchers you feel really good about starting. So against a good Astros lineup, but because of the off days, again, Gilbert can definitely make 2 starts in this series, and Castillo I think can start game 2 and game 5. I think he's got 4 days between those 2 games, so he should be able to make that start. So you only really need a game 3 starter. And Ray didn't throw a ton of pitches, so it's and again the off days, so that's going to be a possibility. Kirby didn't throw; he threw 20 pitches today. He's fine. Just kind of which one do you trust? Because Kirby was a little bit off today as well. The command wasn't 100% where it was. It was what we've seen, and it's tough to say which one you trust more. So I think what you might see is you might see Ray or Kirby get the start, go 1.5 times through the lineup. And then when you start getting to that, the Kyle Tucker area, you might go see Yordan Alvarez, Kyle Tucker. You might go get Robbie Ray and have him try to go 2 innings. I think it's also going to depend a lot on where they're at in the series. Are they up 2-0? Are they down 2-0? Is it 1-1? I think that's also going to be pretty telling. If they're up 2-0, they might just take that shot on Ray or Gilbert. If they're down 2-0, I think you just kind of got to bullpen it and hope that you can get to a game 4 where Gilbert should be ready to go. So yeah, a lot up in the air right now. We'll talk about like roster construction and how many pitchers they carry for round 2. It's a 5-game series now. So that's not a 3-game series. Hopefully it's not a 3-game series unless, if you want to sweep the Astros, I'm totally cool with that, but it doesn't seem quite likely.
13-0.
I mean, why? It's on the table. It's on the table.
That would be preferential. No. Just saying.
Yeah. I know we're going to talk about this on Monday. Probably we're going to talk about the roster. We're going to try and talk about like how the off days impact the Mariners, how they impact the Astros, and again, the schedule. Like for the number 1 seed Astros, the schedule seems to work against them. Because basically the Mariners can throw everything they want at the Astros in games 1, 2, and 3 because they have built-in off days that just kind of reset everything for the team. So
I mean, winning this game is so massive for the Mariners because you literally won yourself an off day.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be such a difference maker. Mm-hmm. I'm really interested to see how the Astros, every team that's going to have a bye week, because no team has really ever had a bye week ever in Major League Baseball until now with this format.
Yep.
How are those teams going to... Hello, rude. We're recording a podcast here, sir. We're professionals.
Yeah.
So how do those teams respond after a week or so off from playing baseball? Like that's going to be really interesting to me as well. We're going to be talking about all of that. We're taking tomorrow off. I think you guys can understand that. I think we all need an off day tomorrow. I'm going to watch some football and chill and try to process everything that I just watched. But we'll be back on Monday, so don't worry about that. And we'll talk about everything. But, Colby, I'll leave you with this. Playoff baseball is coming back to Seattle.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it is. It's been 21 years, almost to the day, that the Mariners will have last played their their last home playoff game, but that's going to end. You're going to get at least one, hopefully more, but you're definitely going to get one. And we'll see what the Mariners can do against Houston. It's going to be a tough series. You're going to have to probably face Verlander twice, which means you're probably going to have to beat him at least once. And the rest of that pitching staff is no easy task either. But Mariners playing good ball right now. They've got some momentum. They've got pretty good pitching on their own. And they've also got power. And when you can play defense, you can pitch, and you can hit home runs. You can beat the Astros in the playoffs. Just ask the Atlanta Braves last year. So I can tell you this: Houston did not want to see Seattle. I can promise you that, because really, for basically the last 100 games of the season, Houston and Seattle pretty similar records. They were basically the same team, which unfortunate for the Mariners because they can never make up any ground on Houston, but they were virtually the same team. And remember last time they played the Astros, they didn't have Mitch Haniger, but they didn't have Luis Castillo either. So there you go.
Yeah, these teams are a lot different.
Yeah. Both of them. So to me, I'm excited to see, I'm very thankful for the off day tomorrow. I kind of got to, watch a Seahawks game, which are always, low stress, nothing weird ever happens in Seahawks games. So, especially not in New Orleans. Yeah. Of all places.
Yeah,
so,
totally. Yeah.
Totally normal football game tomorrow. And then, just get ready for Monday. And then, Tuesday we'll see. We do pre and post. I don't know what we're doing with that yet. Nothing to announce on that front. But I took the week off from my day job to be here so I could do shows for you guys after each of these games, except for Friday for obvious reasons, or Saturday for obvious reasons. I live 2.5 hours away. So
yeah, we'll see how that goes. At the very least, I will be home now. I now have to watch playoff games on TV for the rest of this run, however long it goes. And Colby, I know I was selfish, but it worked out. And I got my redemption. That guy that was caught on TV after Ty France dropped a foul ball, I was caught on TV looking all sad and depressed. It was redemption for that guy tonight. It was redemption for that guy. Oh, how sweet it was. How sweet it was after hearing... that I want to give a special shout out to the woman 3 rows behind me telling every single Mariner that they suck. Moore, you suck. Ray, you suck. Raleigh, you suck.
Very original.
How's your night going, ma'am? How's your night going now, ma'am?
Very original heckle. Yes, I see the education system up there in Canada still isn't that much better than it is here in the States.
I saw people crying tonight. I saw people
not of joy.
I saw people throwing stuff.
Makes sense.
I was also I'm also kind of glad that this happened in the way that it did. Well, I'm glad and not glad because it was less about the Mariners beat us or whatever. We hate the Mariners. It was more like we hate the Blue Jays. John Schneider is a moron. That was the vibe coming out of the stadium. It wasn't
Excellent.
We hate the Mariners. It wasn't really that. It was our team is stupid and life sucks right now.
They'll don't worry. Next year they'll fire up the hate machine for how dare they dance on my field, which don't get shut out in game 1 and don't blow a 7-run lead in game 2, and they wouldn't have. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, allowed them to do it,
folks. I guess that's just what next level baseball is, right? That's next level. That's next level, folks.
I guess all I would say to the Canucks up there, sorry about that, but enjoy your double down at Timmy's, and we'll see you later, boys.
Let's go, boys. It's Leaf season.
Sure, that'll end perfectly fine for the Toronto fans.
I am sure. Well, that's going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Ty Dane Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at @LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez. It's DANEGNZLZ, and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. And thank you again for making us your first listen. Now make your second listen the Locked On MLB podcast. MLB expert Paul Francis Sullivan brings humor, passion, passion and unique perspective on every team and the biggest stories around the league. Follow the #1 daily league-wide podcast, Locked On MLB, on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts, just like us. And with that, have yourself a beautiful baseball day. God, enjoy this one, folks. Enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy it for sure. You bet your bottom dollar that I will. And we'll see you on Monday. Peace.